And this nurse, very great nurse, her name was Megan Olson, and she just said, I believe in caring for my patients, and she went and did it, and she ran a supervised injection site, and she was there. She was dedicated to saving lives, and I think that's what will happen. I mean, we'll see just civil disobedience in our community, because I mean, we know it works. We've got the 48 papers that Will's got. We've got the evidence, and we know we know we're right. We know we're fighting the good fight, and I just can't see that happening, but if that's what would happen, I'm sure of it, and I know that would happen. I think, speaking for Vandu, I think Vandu would just open up the next day with all those school deaths there, each little station for injections, and we would just do it. You know, we'd do it peer to peer. And I think that would be, nobody wants to see it come to that. But I mean, that's what the community would say. The drug user community, drug user activists would be right up there to do something like that.
I think it actually encompasses even more than just the drug users too. Like, I think this whole city of Vancouver came together through some good writers in the local papers, and just how we got educated the whole city. I think if we did open up and we were ruled against and we opened up, I think we'd have the whole city supporting us. And it wouldn't be just the downtown, he said. I think it would be a personal affront to the city of Vancouver, if the federal government, because of all that the city invested in getting this done. And I'm telling you something, it invested just as much by soccer moms and everybody else out there who really had to put their mind with, like, do we really care about those people? And the answer was, yes, we do. So I hate to see it not happen, but I think it would be a real affront to the whole people and everybody who works so hard in the whole city of Vancouver. And as Dave says, I'm sure the door will. I've got the key right here in my shoe.
I also don't think anybody in Insite would let it shut.
It wouldn't be pretty to try that.
Yeah.
Another question. Quoted from the Lancet Journal is the finding that overdose deaths around Insite have decreased by 35%. CBC News asks for clarification of that statistic today by stating that approximately only 5% of downtown Eastside drug users use Insite. Any answers?
Yeah, definitely. That's a good question because it's a technical, nuanced point. And it isn't that only 5% of users in the neighborhood use Insite. That's a statistic that was lifted on one of our papers, and what it actually referred to is probably 5 or 10% of the injections that occur in the downtown Eastside neighborhood are occurring within Insite, just because there's so many drug users and there's so much injecting going on. So it's far more than 5 or 10% of local users are using Insite. It's probably more like 40 or 60%. There's estimated to be 10,000 injection drug users in the downtown Eastside area, and Insite, to the best of my knowledge, has more than 8,000 or 9,000 registered users right now. So it's just a technical point. It's actually the number of injections, the coverage of the site, rather than the number of people using it that statistic referred to.
That's the only time I actually wanted to scream out at those judges and say, it's because we're already filled to capacity. That's the reason we're only doing 5%. Open another one, like we could say 10%. But it was one of those times where I just wanted to scream at those guys. But because I know it. But anyway.
As the lawyer, I'm grateful you did that.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of the questions sort of stray off into other areas, so I'm trying to focus on the Insite questions now before I get to some tougher, broader questions. If Insite is cost effective, lessens the burden of health care dollars, what could be Harper's reason to be opposed to life and money-saving facilities? Is it just an intense dislike of this group? How could that be a reason in court? Second question, is it possible that more people seek treatment while using the clinic because it takes the craziness out of using? So the first one's about dislike of the group, Harper. I mean, you don't have to respond to these questions, but it's a good question.
Well, it's pretty crazy in that back room sometimes, so I don't know about taking the craziness out of it, but you always know that you're supported by a medical facility. And in fact, I thought in the beginning that people might actually use more than they should be because, oh, I'm protected here. But we realized that that wasn't the case either. It was just another fallacy that they were throwing us. But somebody else want to comment on the first part there?
Yeah, I really don't know what's in the first
I don't
part
want
of
to speak
that.
to my friends, even.
I think
We go way back.
it's largely ideological opposition to Insite and maybe in some ways a lack of sympathy and compassion for the people that are drug users on the part of the Harvard government, but I don't know what to say on that.
You see editorials or articles written often by Daphne Braun or Margaret Wente, and the arguments that they use, which I think are kind of emblematic of Harper's government, tend to be based on this idea that it's misguided compassion. That term gets used a lot. They're naive in their simple analysis. They're enabling, all that kind of rhetoric around somehow if you make a drug addict's life easier, you're making drug use easier, therefore you're kind of deluding yourself to think that you're helping when the drugs themselves are the problem. But clearly the drugs are not the only problem, and it's, I think, you know, it's complicated because even when you get into the whole argument around addiction as a disease, that's a complicated debate. I'm not sure that I really agree with that either. So I think the problem is everybody wants to package it up as a simple yes or no thing, like you're either pro-addiction or anti-addiction, and the pro-treatment side and the pro-enforcement side really oversimplify harm reduction as enabling, and I think that that's the most simplistic kind of summary of where I think Harper sits on the issue.
That's fun. Several years ago, I was on a panel at UBC with Gil Puter. In fact, that was, those of you who know him, that was his very last panel before he passed. And a conservative senator from Ottawa who was in favor of harm reduction. Don, you remember his name, Don? Nolan, that's right, it was Nolan. So it was the three of us and the UBC students, and one of the questions was, how much pressure does the United States put on Ottawa to not implement harm reduction and certainly injection sites? And Nolan, literally, he just immediately reacted and said, immense the pressure like that. And I think because we have so many battles in a way to fight here and certainly tasks to do to make the changes that are needed, that sometimes forget that pressure that's so hard coming from there, and is so just wicked, actually. And when they call it a war on drugs, I mean, they're serious about the war on drugs. When they use that word, it's not just a simple poetic metaphor. They have, so I think we really need to change it, get rid of Harper and the government, and get somebody less in the pocket of the U.S., I would say, and certainly around this issue. Thank you.
I just want to make one other comment about that. Before the injection site opened, right around the election, when Larry Campbell was voted as mayor, we had a meeting that we were brought into at the U.S. Embassy. A colleague of mine, Dan Small, and I were invited. There was a small round table of about 10 people, and they brought up the U.S. drug czar's staff person, that John Walters guy. And we sat around a table where he lectured us for about 2 hours in a small room about the threat to Canadian sovereignty that the introduction of an injection site would bring to Canada. It was bizarre. We wrote on pages of notes, and we just kept underlining the word sovereignty, border patrols. Like, it was very surreal.
In fact, Senator Nolan, I talked to his executive assistant and while I was out there, and the senator actually gave us a shout out at the NATO conference in Germany on that Thursday. I was really happy about that. But he actually told me that the American government was willing to soften their stance on the softwood lumber tax if we would only not open Insite. We're talking about billions and billions of dollars. So these guys are just complete assholes.
Those are frightening stories.